Actually, Rewind came to my attention 6 months ago or so, where they had an app on the computer where effectively it's recording everything that you're doing. Your face is telling me exactly what I'm thinking, which is that episode, what was it called? The Entire History of You by Black Mirror. And I think that's where we're going. So I might be down the pub and say, what was that funny thing that Dave said? And said, no, I can't find anything.
Resistance is futile.
Welcome to the podcast,
where we explore what's happening with AI, business, automation and culture, and ask,
where on earth is all this going? Welcome back.
Hello.
Good to be back.
Yeah, good to be back.
We batch filmed, so actually we've only been gone for about 5 minutes.
We've been in this room for about 6 hours now.
AI and human enhancement. We're going to be covering pushing the boundaries of potential. And I think I should caveat this by saying we're not talking about singularity type AI speculation. That's for Peter Diamandis and maybe Elon Musk type conversations.
We'll leave it to them.
We want to talk about the stuff that is apparent now, being developed, and might make sense, and the sorts of things that might have commercial value. So therefore, they might turn up quicker than you'd think. And so this one's challenging because it's really easy to slip off into philosophical conundrums, but nonetheless, if there's things that are obviously ethical, we're going to try and address them. That's the setup. Let's get into it. I think the intersection of AI and human development challenges our understanding of what it means to be human, and that's okay as long as we've maybe got some historic reference points for enhancing ourselves, which through technology we've got lots of them. And I think we probably need to just give ourselves a little bit of context that we've done stuff like this maybe before, and not to get too carried away with the almost metaphysical kind of like sci-fi things. Although it does feel...
As you're saying that, I'm just thinking of some of the medical enhancements that you see in Hemel Hempstead. And I don't think it gives it a good... I'm talking about physical enhancements.
It's like...
The lips, the big lips, the eyelashes.
We're picking on Hemel.
No, it could be any, and other towns do exist. So mostly Hemel.
You've been to the new town lately.
Yeah, but it's exaggeration of it's enhancing and exaggerating in that case.
The physical
attributes. Yeah. And then they become too exaggerated.
Well, I don't know. All in the eye of the beholder, isn't Jamie?
Yeah, maybe I'm just an old-fashioned kind of guy.
Yeah. But the thing is that there are precedents for this to a level. But I think what we're not familiar with is, of course, the ones that we thought that we had supremacy over. And that's cognitive abilities. So that's the main area. It won't just be the only one, but let's talk about that one first. And what we talk about here in terms of augmented reality isn't the augmented reality of Meta or the metaverse necessarily. It's more the augmenting of reality generally, any tools that enhance our reality.
I suppose
it might be visual,
augmenting expertise or human knowledge.
Human knowledge.
Yeah.
And the first thing it throws up, because if you're like us, your first proper use of AI as a day-to-day tool, unless you say that Google search is already an AI for years, and maybe it is.
Clippy.
What's that?
Microsoft's little paperclip.
Oh, paperclip.
Clippy.
Was that
was my first experience.
That was your first. Oh my gosh!
Yes,
this is all going to be.
Yes, it's all going to be okay.
We're going to be wearing Star Trek suits in 5 minutes.
Right.
Was the ChatGPT experience, and in the sense that this thing actually might end the need for, say, experts.
Yes.
It doesn't. But what I mean is, instead of trawling through a search engine to find answers and cobble them together in your head or whatever, it's doing all of that in the way that an expert might, which was an expert goes and researches all of this information and gives you, if they're good, a layman's answer to your question.
Yes.
And in the sense that augmented reality of this sort might be, look, in the same way we don't need to know long division mathematics or
logarithms.
Exactly. To understand that, you can get an answer, but same with experts. They're gone. We just don't need them.
I think what I'm thinking of as you're talking about this is it's closing the gap between the knowledge and the end user. If we're the end user and there's the knowledge, I was thinking of a library. So in a library, if I wanted to learn something before the internet, I would have to find a library that had the books that I wanted to read or to go and discover the books that I wanted. I then have to go and read through those books to start to gather that information, to then understand that information or have a teacher there that would do that. You then have the internet comes along. That means I don't need to go to the library. I can search and it brings back the books that it thinks, or the articles, the content that it thinks is interesting for me or useful for me. And I can then do what I'm trying to do, which is learn something. And now we've gone even a step even beyond that, because ChatGPT has read all the stuff in the library and now it's going to answer the question directly to me or teach me directly in the way that I want to. And I guess the experts were like that. They were the conduit from all of that knowledge or some of that knowledge into translating it into lay terms. So I think that's what's happening. So I suppose, is that an augmentation or is that an acceleration, a fine-tuning of... do you know what I mean? It's skipping steps.
Yes, it's skipping steps, definitely. But in the fact that
you're getting closer to
take out all of human knowledge, not just is it available at your fingertips, which it already was, potentially. It's now available in a natural language way.
Yes.
I actually need to scrape all of human knowledge from all time and be served up a summary that's contextual to me and the question and the way I'm asking it. Totally different experience to what we had before.
Yes.
So in that sense, it's not,
and that's what
and it might be wrong.
But that's what Google was trying to do. I think that was their thing, wasn't it? All the knowledge in the world accessible to everyone, and that's what they were trying to do. And they've got us to a certain point. But what ChatGPT now has now accelerated that to the next level. So now you're mainlining into it. I think that's what it is. You're mainlining into this knowledge, but as you say, it may not be right. That's the challenge.
Yeah, no, it could be totally hallucinating.
Yeah.
So if you're a creative and you're wanting to make unexpected connections and use it for making art, especially, but even for what seem like mundane things, for instance, editing this podcast, it's going to use AI tools to help edit it and to stitch together certain things. Those are creative connections are fine if there's unexpected things going on. It's not a problem, of course. But when it comes to becoming to trust this tool as an expert, which is what it can very much sound like. It's a good bullshitter.
Yeah.
That's, I think...
Is that what experts are?
Yeah. It's a good bullshitter in that it can sound like an expert, but not be one.
Yeah.
It takes one to know one.
Yeah, yes.
It's going to be a problem, I think. So you've got to be able to see, unless that's a solvable problem, we can recognize, we have actually solved it. We've got some sort of way of marking that as being from AI and may not be correct, which OpenAI does at the moment, for example. But more than that, because people just skip over that.
Yes.
They bypass that information a lot, right? I do. And because I'm not necessarily looking for stuff where someone's life's at stake.
Yes.
But nonetheless, it does seem, if you're augmenting it, if this is the gateway to a lot of other augmentations, this seems like the place to start questioning how we, from this, what tools are on the horizon.
I mean, I'm not sure if augmentation is the right word, because and it's a very provocative phrase, the end of experts. And I suppose what I'm thinking about is what is an expert? What am I using an expert for? Or what do we use expert now? Experts could be professors, teachers. Is an expert, just so I can be clear, an expert is someone who has a lot of knowledge of a particular topic, and their ability to be able to communicate that, and also maybe to bring things from different areas or look at a particular scenario or situation and use their knowledge and expertise to be able to then give you advice.
Yeah.
And I guess what we're saying is, will things like ChatGPT and whatever, is that doing the same thing?
It's a facsimile of that.
Yeah.
And it's amalgamating it and maybe making creative connections between areas of knowledge.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. But it is provocative deliberately, but it's not the end of experts in the sense that we won't need expertise. We're going to, but I guess in the sense that we don't experience the expertise in the same way we did. So when you visited a blog or a white paper or something like that, or did anything like that online, you very quickly come across the sources of that information. It's verifiable and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
What's happening is, if you might be an expert in 4 or 5 years' time, that you put your, let's say, PhD, or you put your whatever knowledge, you're adding your secret sauce to the human pile of knowledge, and it gets smooshed up into the world brain and disappears.
Yes.
So in terms of the experience of you as the expert giver. Yes, it's getting used.
Yes.
But we don't have at the moment tools to recognize that.
Yes.
At least I know there's a lot of legal wrangles potentially of that.
Yeah.
But that's something to work out. And then on the receiving end, there's no connection with that expert and, of course, their worldview.
Yes.
Because a lot of this expertise, of course, is contextual. Yes, it's scientific, but it's also contextual based on their worldview and the information that they want to study.
Yes.
So there's just a whole lot of stuff there where I don't think we should see the end of experts at all. But that's what potentially might look like on the receiving end of experiencing using these tools.
This is where we bring in our friends, the NFTs, potentially.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I'm extremely skeptical about NFTs.
A solution looking for a problem.
Yeah, I don't think... Yeah, what are they? I don't know what they are. I know, I understand the concepts technically of what they are, and I understand what people are trying to do with art with them, but maybe I'm just too old to kind of understand this stuff. But
yeah, me too.
Yeah, but I think that this could be a solution to some of the problems that we're talking about. So
I think I know where you're going with this because I've heard of this too. But go on.
Okay, so the idea being that I always use this example. Let's say I am the best salesperson in the world, okay, and I've got all this knowledge and all this experience. And what I want to do is put it into this big shmush machine where it goes into the big brain. But I want it to be acknowledged that it's my intellectual property. And secondly, I maybe want to get paid for that as well. And NFTs are potentially a way of digitally marking that as my content so that when OpenAI or Google or whoever it is uses my content, they either have to pay me for that because they know it's me and it gets tracked back to me, or if, I don't know, a GPT, one of the GPTs that OpenAI are doing, that I'm getting some remuneration from that as well. And I think that may be a way of resolving this problem.
Yeah, that is the take that I had a while back when I was writing my book, and I touched on this briefly. It was in that vein.
Yeah.
And I was like writing and going, I think this may actually be something that's useful, but it was in that sense of it's unknown factor. And I don't know if it's correct, I'm speculating, but so it feels vindicating that is a possibility because, yeah, NFTs otherwise seem like a ridiculous Ponzi scheme to cynics like me.
Yeah, and me.
But it is really encouraging that the digital technology that's behind it,
yes,
that is really may have a really good use. And when you see deep fakes and stuff also being exposed by potentially using this technology, that's quite hopeful. Is there anything that I don't, as a non-expert...
I don't know enough about NFT, the technical aspect of it, or only in so much that it's embedded, hashed code embedded into whatever it is that you're trying to protect. So I don't see that there's a problem there. Where my mind has gone with this in the past is a little bit like, and I don't know how relevant this is, but I don't know if you watched on Netflix, it was a kind of docu-series about Spotify, all about how they started Spotify. It's just a really good documentary, but it's a drama documentary. And the idea of that is great because effectively all of the artists that are on Spotify wanted to make money, but the record companies that kind of own those artists were really the ones that wanted to make money. But the smaller independent artists who thought, oh, this is great, I'm going to get money back from Spotify every time I sell one of my songs, it doesn't quite work. They do, but they have to sell thousands and thousands, or have thousands of streams. And I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this, but the NFT, I wonder, could be like that. It could be seen as the kind of golden egg as a way of protecting your own intellectual property.
Yeah.
But
not earning much.
But not earning enough. Yeah. Nowhere near. If you're a public speaker and you earn £2,000 for talking about your expertise, you might be getting, £20 for appearing on a few OpenAI searches,
sure,
that kind of thing.
But in the sense that it would do one of two things.
Yeah.
It would at least recognize the knowledge is coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
But secondly, might make AI things like OpenAI, for example, you pay to use, might make that prohibitively expensive.
Possibly, yeah.
And if so, then that will cause a reckoning of some sort with this whole augmentation. Because at the moment, I think it might be that a lot of the costs are hidden because we're circumventing the how that information got there in the first place and saying, oh, it was there.
Yeah, I think it was what you're talking about as well is in terms of kind of copyright and intellectual property. Because do we know whether OpenAI pay for copyright material which they've scraped from the web or content?
Yeah, in a sense, I can understand why the argument is, well, they're creating something new by combining things.
But they've consumed, if it's effectively consumed it in the way that if I wanted to consume a copyrighted document...
Even if you turn it into something else completely.
Yeah,
which is like reading two books and combining them into a third book.
But not paying for the two books.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
What
no,
I'm saying
of
is,
course.
so if your books, which I've read by millions, I know, but if all of them didn't pay you for the book, but said, it's okay, Dave,
17
because
million.
sorry, but it's okay, Dave, because I've used what I read in your book, and I read Jamie's book, which he hasn't written yet, but I read Jamie's book as well.
Yeah,
I've
of
created a
course.
whole new thing.
Yeah, yeah. That
I'm
makes
not going to
perfect
pay
sense to
you.
me.
Yeah.
So on every level, that makes perfect sense. Legal, ethical,
Yeah.
moral. But at least for now, the problem is the scale, and it might be that the rush to get this out was as much about proving the technology
Yes.
as it was about getting ahead of
Yeah.
the sort of legal wrangles that it would obviously open up. But it was to like have such a footprint that it was like we're established.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we can afford to now wrangle with all that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my cynical,
Yeah.
Machiavellian look at why it was rolled out the way it was.
Yeah.
But that's certainly problem to untangle. So that's one of the things that's in the way of augmentation, might be that we're not factoring in the cost of using all this AI in this way. And I guess now let's look at some products fledgling products that came out that are in the realm of augmentation, because it's tempting to talk about the sorts of things like Neuralink, Elon Musk's company, that has an interface put into your head with filaments into your brain to connect you to a computer.
That'll be fine, I'm sure.
What
could possibly go wrong? A constant stream of Twitter kind of coming straight into your
You're just
retina.
mainlining Twitter.
Yeah.
Nothing could possibly
Go
go wrong
wrong,
with that.
no.
So that's the stuff it's not that it's speculative, of course it's a real company, but the point is there's nothing proven about it.
Yeah.
But we're talking about products that have actually been launched, and they're addressing market concerns that are real, and offering a product that people can buy now.
Yep.
Humane AI is the most obvious one, because they had this
big launch.
horrific marketing video where I was actually convinced that the two presenters were AI.
Yes. That was something else, wasn't it?
So weird. That's a whole nother story. But the product itself, Jamie, have you got a way of unpacking what it is, or maybe the market it addressed, and what sort of breakthroughs it had?
Okay, so I still think it's it's not entirely clear exactly what you would use it for and how you would use it. But the idea is you have a little clip-on badge that sits on your chest, and that has a camera, I think, and a microphone. It doesn't have a screen, and it has a little projector, so you can project images and things onto your hand to control it. Very kind of Star Trek-y, you kind of programmy.
Tapping on it,
and then you tap it.
Shirt, well, that was very Star Trek-y, I thought.
Yeah.
And the only thing they missed is that they weren't wearing the same uniform, and that everybody that was going around the background was all in the same uniform as well.
Although they
one
just
set
had
of
some
clothes.
personality, it's all.
As well. Yeah, they
But
were data.
effectively, it was, to me, it didn't seem like much more than a glorified Siri type thing, because you double tap the thing, and then you can say, "Oh, tell me my latest messages that have come through," and then it talks to you. But that's the other thing, is it seems like surely everyone can hear what it's saying, which I didn't think was a particularly good idea, not particularly private. But it says that it projects it direct into your kind of ear.
Yeah, so you got your AirPods or whatever on.
No, I don't think. I think when they were demoing it, it's just it comes out of the thing. It just projects it just reads it out to you.
Oh, it has a speaker.
A speaker. Yeah. I feel a bit paranoid. I don't particularly like doing stuff on loudspeaker on my phone when I'm on the train, for example. So imagine everyone sitting there with these wearable things and listening to their messages, and it was playing music.
I'm pretty sure there'd be a
Bluetooth like into your headphones.
Yeah.
Okay. But then I'm like, okay, so what this is...
I always suspect.
Yeah, so this is a device that is less functional than my phone, less portable even, because it sits there and is just basically an audio interface into what is effectively an AI version of Siri, that kind of thing.
So another solution looking for a problem.
Yeah.
And probably not even a solution to the non-problem.
No, I'm trying to think how I would use it, because...
this is the thing. If you and I are going, what's it for? But here's the thing. iPhone, when it was held up by Steve Jobs in 2007, was all like, we've got phones.
Yeah.
What do we need this for? So it might be that there is something going on that people have seen as a product based on a whole universe of things in the background
that we don't know
that we don't even know about. And I think that's what they're hinting at is, look, we've got I'm not saying theirs is the breakthrough product, but the idea that using AI isn't necessarily something that we're able to all grasp yet. So having a satellite of apps that they talked about, which are in the background to this, which help you navigate all sorts of situations quicker, faster, better, whatever. is what they're talking about. It seemed to me.
Yeah, but so there's some other products and talk of products that are around at the moment that we can link into this. The one that most people know about is the Meta glasses. Originally it was kind of Google Glass, the Google glasses.
Well, I wondered if this was another glass hole moment. Do you know about the glass hole?
I don't know.
Google put out something called Google Glass about 12 years ago.
12 years ago, wow.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago. I won't pretend it was exactly long, but it was more than 10 years. And it had cameras in the glasses, so you could wander around, but people didn't know when the camera was on. People were potentially just talking to somebody and then recording them. Yeah. And so they started getting called glass holes if you're wearing one of these things. And
we're a pair of glass holes then.
We're a pair of glass holes. I don't have glass on. But so it ended up becoming a very niche product, and it's used for surgeons and things like that. I still think it's used.
So Meta have got their glasses. So they've got the Ray-Ban kind of brand, and they're linked to them. And originally it was Instagram and this kind of thing. And now with their latest announcement about a month or so ago, they're talking about how it still has the camera, still has the kind of, not jawbone, what are these kind of the...
jawbone.
Jawbone. You can listen to it without having earphones in. And it can record things and upload it to Instagram. But now the next phase is that will be connected to Meta's AI, which is a bit like a ChatGPT.
Right.
So you'll be able to show it what you're looking at, or it'll see what you're looking at, and you could say, what plant is that I'm looking at, or what bird is making that noise? And so it's this is an augmentation of what we're seeing and we're hearing anyway. So I think that's one thing that looks quite interesting. You've then got Johnny Ive, he was Steve Jobs' right-hand man. It was him that really designed the iPhone. So he was the main man.
Yep.
And he now has been in talks with Sam Altman from OpenAI about an AI device. No one quite knows. They've said they're not talking about what it is, but you can see that something like this is coming. My gut feeling is it is going to be something that's in our ear, like an AirPod effectively, or glasses, because we're to the idea of wearing glasses, whether we wear them or not. But there is another product that's out there called by a company called Rewind AI. I don't know if you're aware of that one. A little bit like the Humane one. This is a pendant that you wear around your neck. Actually, Rewind came to my attention 6 months ago or so, where they had an app on the computer where effectively it's recording everything that you're doing. Every screen you open, it's literally just monitoring everything you're doing and storing it all. And then if you think, what was that thing what did I search for? What did I do? What did I do?
You go and watch a
You literally rewind.
Go watch a Black Mirror episode, and then you go and rewind. Sorry, you were saying?
Yes, I've written this down as well. We're going to get onto that. And it would rewind what you were doing on the computer. But now they are, don't think it's been released yet, but they are talking very much about a pendant that you wear around your neck that is recording audio of everything all the time. And your face is telling me exactly what I'm thinking, which is that episode, what was it called? The Entire History of You by Black Mirror. And I think that's where we're going. So whether it's a pendant, whether it's glasses, whether it's something in your ear, something will be monitoring everything you're doing and storing it so that I could walk out of here and tonight I'm in the pub and I think, what was that thing, that funny thing?
It's not just the storing though, although that's obviously going to have some, plenty of people have issues with that. But it's the processing of the data and giving it back to you in natural language. Back on a week ago, I was talking about something. Can you find it?
That's what I mean. I might be down the pub and say, what was that funny thing that Dave said? And said, no, I can't find anything.
Walked into that.
Straight in. But so imagine that plus the augmentation. So you've got the glasses. It's telling me what I'm looking at. It's helping me with those kind of things. I go up to someone. I think we've all had this kind of sci-fi fantasy idea that we can walk up to someone and we were both wearing glasses and it's kind of, it's telling us that their favorite hobby is this. They know this person and that person that I know and that kind of thing. But at the same time recording
total train wreck socially. I mean, it really is. Yeah. Just the idea that could be going on at any time would be just the biggest social turn-off, right? Surely.
I think
this one is an area where I do feel like culture has the last say.
Yeah.
So these things there does feel a lot of this is just, here's the future.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
You can't send it back anyway.
Yeah.
There you go. And by the way, your career's been turned into an app.
Yeah. But now you can walk around with glasses looking at it. Yeah.
So isn't that great? But this one feels much more like an issue of culture gets final say, which is these things don't just get accepted on their own. They may do, but they need to go through the cultural barrier first, and they need to be made socially acceptable.
Okay,
and that's the big one.
But do we not? Okay, so One of the other areas that I have thought about is that, so let's say we're all wearing glasses, whether it's contact lens glasses, and we're wearing these glasses that kind of augment our reality.
Yeah.
The other thing that could happen is, let's say you're a tall guy, I'm definitely not a tall guy, but let's say I want people to think that I'm taller than I am. So in the same way that Instagram and Facebook and all these things have filters, and we're very comfortable with filters, yeah. So now actually you look through pictures of your friends, you can't tell whether it's their natural look or whether they're enhanced. Can you see a point where I can define how I want other people to see me? So now when you see me on the street, I look different to how I actually...
Yes, technically that's possible, but I think that's in the realm of that it would be a long way off, and not even before it got off the ground, it might not be socially acceptable.
But makeup is socially acceptable, and that's creating an image of yourself so that others see you in a way that is not actually your natural self.
I agree. Look, I'm not saying it can't happen or won't be tried. I'm just saying that at least on this one,
Yeah.
there are cultural filters.
Yes, yeah.
So augmenting stuff, apart from the fact that we're talking about stuff that really enhances their ability to
Yes.
get a high-powered
Yeah.
paid job or something like that.
Yeah.
Apart from those ones, which offer a very different incentive,
Yeah.
the ones that are involved in social acceptance, those ones have to go through a filter of this isn't okay.
Yeah.
Little things, but like when we started using mobile phones, everyone started using them way too much.
Yeah.
There came a point where, for instance, at
If you're in a
meals,
meeting, you're like, or a meal,
meeting
yes.
or something, obnoxious phone ringings.
Yeah.
That's just a no-no socially. That kind of stuff. I know that's not quite the same thing. All the stakes are maybe higher here, but nonetheless, there is that social
We find
filter.
a level. We
find social faux pas and we go, hang on a minute, it's not okay.
Yeah, but I think that we've moved on a little bit. Not necessarily in a good way. I think that back when Google Glass, if that was 12 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, we weren't so happy sharing as much as we do now, particularly generationally. Look at your teenagers, my teenagers, they share everything. It's open, totally open. So are we in a different place now? I get I agree with what you say in terms of kind of the culture determines it, but maybe culture has changed and evolved too, but a different generation have different opinions on that. And
yeah, they might, but again, and I guess what I mean is that feels democratically in the sense of like a community commenting on it,
Yeah.
more malleable, like as in there's gatekeepers of sorts.
yes,
I don't think there should always be gatekeepers everywhere, but in the sense that's a healthy filter
yes,
on
yeah,
the worst things. And I think, therefore, it's put it this way, I think we could augment a lot of things in our lives.
yeah,
And if you're just casting back to the beginning of this, augmenting in the loosest term of like lots of tools that help you see and do things better in the world.
yeah.
We could bring them in and find our way culturally without, it being a Skynet situation.
Yes, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Unless I'm missing something. Do you think? These sorts of tools, whether it's something like Humane AI or something, which I think is seems like an iPhone on steroids.
Yeah.
Because it's much more hands-free. The thing I liked about it, for example, and we can then talk about the cultural ramifications, are at least it seemed like you aren't stuck to a screen.
Yes.
Seems to encourage at least more interaction with the world. What was really interesting, because for me, it looked like not quite a glass hole moment, but a segue moment.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
This doesn't have a real world use. You think it does.
Yes.
And that's what I thought. And then I showed it to my wife and my 14-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And both of them were like, oh, yeah, I want one of those.
But what was it they wanted?
No,
What?
They were like...
I'm really intrigued because I can't see it at all at the moment.
And when I drilled down into the things that interested them, they liked the fact that they didn't have to look at a screen. And that was where I started to then think, okay, maybe what it does is, or tools like this, is if you can use natural language with these tools to get the information that you might have got from, say, a phone or a screen, but not always with a screen, then, you're interacting with the world a lot more.
I think that, and this gets onto my curiosity about why we haven't seen an AI thing really from Apple yet, that's coming out, is I think that everything that this Humane product can do can be done on a phone, will be able to be done on a phone. The problem is you've got Siri, which is rubbish. You've got Alexa, which is slightly better, and you've got the Google one. I think the minute that, whether it's Apple or whether it's Google, release the equivalent of what Humane is doing, but on the phone, I think that will knock the Humane thing out. Because I think that then, if I get rid of my phone and I've just got the Humane thing, but I want to see a map of where I'm going, now I've got nowhere to see a map, unless it's just telling me turn left, go right, do this. But sometimes I want to see a picture of something.
So products like this might just at least be signposting.
Yeah.
Because if Apple, say, buys Humane AI, let's do a scenario like what they've done is basically gone, here's an innovative new way of using all of this tech.
Yes.
And by the way, if you want to buy us, it's fine. You can have all the proprietary. So
that might
maybe
be where it goes. That might be where it...
But at least there's a conversation happening there that we could look into through their research and study. We could look into what the tech people think that this is going to be used for. They're not often right, if I'm honest.
Yes.
They often
they're solving problems which...
Then they live in bubbles.
Yeah.
In which some things just seem way more interesting than they actually are in the real world.
I heard something once a few years ago, which was like all the people, typically, and unfortunately, a lot of people in that tech industry are young men. It's just the way it seems to be at the moment. And a lot of the products and services that you see are designed for young men. So think Uber Eats and Just Eat and things like that. They're designed for young men who want to sit on their sofa and have a burger delivered to their house. Whereas if there were more women in the industry, we might be getting different products and different services.
100%. I mean, just you see any of the meta products and you see all the ideas that are coming out of that company, and you've got Zuckerberg, who seems to live like a monk, right? And he just wants to basically have this pristine, spotless Zen spaces.
Yeah.
And then you on top of that layer, you have the hard reality of bringing up kids, navigating all sorts of complexities at work and stuff. And you just go, like, life doesn't, I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this, but it's like, it seems like a fantasy version of the world that you're trying to imprint.
Yes.
That doesn't exist. And I don't know if you want it to. I don't think you want everything that clean and nice.
Are you talking about where you see anything that he does? It's you're in your lounge, and now I can put and the lounge is like this pristine, totally zen. Is that what you mean? Yeah, everything is. I wonder what his house like with his kids. You and I both got kids or had young kids.
It's when they were young
chaos.
in particular. It's total chaos. Yeah, I remember a good friend of ours who had kids before us.
Yeah.
And we had, our house was kind of all nice and stuff. She came around we were nesting, and she came around and she was like, see all this nice furniture?
Yes.
Yeah. All gone. Because we were planning on having kids, and she was like, all gone. You're so right. It was just like I'm sure we went through like an entire makeover, just completely wasted, and it was like, fine, 10 years later, just pretty much biff.
I remember before we'd had our kids and we'd moved into our house, and we bought 2 new sofas, which were cream, kind of fabric. And I remember, I think my mum saying to me, is that a wise idea? This is just before we'd had kids. It was like, no, it wasn't a good idea.
No, it didn't end well. And in that sense, I don't think a lot of these early tools will end well for these companies either.
Yeah.
So it's more, how do we look at what is trying to be developed, look through the intention behind it, and see, are these, does this do something better? And if it does, some things are just for the market to provide, but some things are maybe to be regulated ahead of time, because actually, hang on a sec. To me, it just doesn't seem like this is one of them.
Yeah.
This is on a scale of things, it could either be a C3PO, useful but annoying, or do you know what? I think it could actually be an R2D2. It could
just
be really
fun
good.
and
just fun, useful.
Yeah.
I think when, for instance, I first saw iPads, right? Tablets, basically.
Yeah.
What? That's just a big iPhone.
Yeah.
What's the
why would
point
I need one
in that? And it's not life changing, of course. So I don't want to get carried away with it. But it just as a metaphor for this, it was like one of those things where you realise, I get the point of it now. And I wouldn't be anywhere without a tablet now.
Yes.
And for me, over a laptop.
Yeah.
Simply because it's just much easier for me to use quickly for the uses I have anyway.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time there are definitely tools that we just don't know we need. That's fine. That should be for the market and so on.
Yeah.
I think it's in that category. Yeah. There's probably one more issue to look at is speculating on the long-term implications, though, of all these different tools that we might augment our skills with, our minds, and then maybe we can therefore talk about things like Neuralink and things like that.
I've avoided learning too much about Neuralink.
Is it too early to speculate on things like that? I mean, well, not necessarily Neuralink, but the idea of really getting out, like without going into biotech, which is a totally different world.
Yes, enhancing
our bodies, using AI. I don't know if there are. It doesn't seem obvious to me that there are things like that.
I think the fact that we think that the Humane AI thing is just so out there probably makes us not the best people to work out whether.
It's out there. It's more. It wasn't that so much. It was like that's a tool for something.
Yeah,
it's hard to put my finger on what it is.
What it actually is, what the kind of use cases for it.
This will date really badly in the sense that we'll probably
yes,
next year we're standing around talking
about documenting
like Star Trek. But
I suppose the Neuralink thing is I go back to my analogy of the library and the books and the things like that, because now with something like Neuralink, now the expert's just directly in your head. Now I don't even need to look at the device or ask it. So I can just think, what's the best cheese to go with this particular wine? And it will just be there.
Yeah.
Then
that starts to become the question. And this is why I think it's just far enough away to know there's all these other divergent paths that could happen before it that make it like we might not either want or need that, or the market might show that there's no interest in it, or there's something else that's more urgent.
But maybe as an enhancement, potentially, imagine you have this chip inside your head, and instead of it being something that we interact with in the way that we think that's what we're going to do with it, maybe it's something that's just monitoring your blood. It's monitoring in the same way that now they're starting to use the Apple Watch for diabetes and all this kind of things. Maybe that's another application of it. It's a way of saying your blood pressure's starting to rise quite suddenly.
That absolutely is the first case use of it.
Yeah.
But that's what it's meant to be. Like, at least for the first users, because it'd be super expensive. It's meant to augment people, for instance, that have lost ability in their limbs.
Yes.
So it's connecting up that kind of stuff, helping with languages, language disabilities, and that kind of stuff. Or I'm not sure about this one, but other things like sight and hearing, whether or not it can help with that, I don't know. But those are so it's the remedial things that it's meant to help with. That's the market that it's going for to start with.
But that will naturally lead to enhancement. So
as the tool becomes cheaper, other people will get it just for its own sake.
Yes.
Not at first. It would be, if you really need it and it costs a lot of money, that's the market that they're addressing first.
Yes.
And so all that sounds really nice, but I just, and really clever. It's not, I definitely don't want to sound dismissive of stuff that is quite remarkable. It's more that it seems still a long way
away from where we are,
and being a commercial reality.
Yes.
And a lot of hoops and hurdles that need to be jumped over or through to make that a reality. And it's in that sense, I feel like I'm just being marketed to constantly for these things, rather than being, okay, these are things that are viable right now. There's plenty of things that we can talk about that are really augmenting your various natural abilities now. Apart from, we've talked about these ones today in terms of just what are augmenting cognitive abilities. And I think it's really hard then to find examples where it's not augmenting cognitive abilities. They're workplace sort of visors that you see in marketing videos you talked about
Microsoft's
before. Where there's like a screen that comes down and are these just marketing videos made to feel out whether there's a market for these things, or are they actually being developed at the same time?
They are being developed. One of my clients is, funnily enough, they're in the video production, kind of high-end video production for big commercial companies. And they're also doing a lot of stuff with virtual reality and augmented reality. So a lot of their work now is training. So if someone's learning how to build a particular device or motor or whatever it is, or medical, and they're creating these immersive virtual reality videos with headsets and the special glove things to be able to do that. So it does seem to be a commercial reality. That is, you hear Meta advertising on the radio that this is what they're doing, and you think, maybe not. But actually, I've seen that this is what people are doing. So I do think that is going to be an area. I think what kind of threw it slightly off tack is the kind of the metaverse. I'm not wholly bought into the metaverse and this idea of the metaverse. And when it was all very cartoony, I think that's what's make it a little bit unbelievable.
Well, it's the problem. And I'm not sure, because I don't know enough about the tech, whether this interrupts or intersects with the AI kind of developments or not. But the metaverse just strikes me as, at the moment, still being incredibly exotic in terms of putting on a headset. It's so deeply unsocial for most people. Fine for people who love trying out new things. Like me, I'm fine with trying that. But am I going to put on a headset all day with a headset? No. When they become glasses, of course, and I think a lot of people who are in the space have talked about this. So, you're just seeing the early stage things. Once you become glasses, people will use it a lot more. And I think that's back to probably what people might have clicked on this podcast looking at, because it's titled with augmented, and they think, we're only going to talk about that. That's just, I think, one, as the term only happens to be used for at the moment for visual things.
Yes.
But actually...
But it's hard to imagine augmenting other areas, isn't it? Your senses, isn't it? It's going to be touch,
Whether that's AI related, I don't know.
No.
I don't think it is. Or
No.
it doesn't seem to be I'm sure there will be applications that help with the use of it.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's an exotic space of things where there could be a growing market, which will make it very interesting for that small market.
Yeah.
How much will it impact our culture in the same way that, the internet and smartphones did?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
No, not yet.
No, not yet.
Too far ahead.
So that's where we'll leave it today.
Okay.
But if you've got anything we've brought up that you thought, actually, do you know what, that we couldn't think of, let us know. And we'll revisit that, I'm pretty sure. Because
they're very into their clickety-click thing, aren't they? The finger gestures. Microsoft are now doing this as well.
Okay.
And Meta. This is now where you do the finger gesture to double-click effectively. You kind of... Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, but that's what the projector's for.
This is effectively you can just go like double clicks. If you're on the audio, you can't see, but you like tap your fingers together, and that triggers something to happen. And this is how the Apple thing was working as well, the Apple visor thing. So that's going to do the same thing, and the Meta thing's doing the same.
At least some basic things like go home, I think was close your hand.
Yeah, that's it.
Goes to the home space, and you can go re-navigate from that kind of stuff. So in the sense that a lot of these things are glossy new tech, but now they've got AI behind them helping you. I think that's the interesting thing for me. It's not like these tools aren't interesting potential Christmas presents for people who love tech.
Yeah.
Then that's one layer. And that's the sort of retail layer of these things. But I think getting on screens and in
I suppose another way of looking at it is just when I was driving here today, I got in my car, my phone, there was a WhatsApp message that I wanted to reply to. So I wanted to do a voice message thing, but I couldn't do it when I was moving. So I had to stop to do that, to start it, so I could then carry on whilst I was driving. I then wanted to remember the address of here so that I could put that into the sat nav. And at the moment, the car has certain bits it can help me with, and the phone has certain things I can help me with. Siri's still useless, so I'm not going to use that. But I did find myself thinking, when, let's say, OpenAI, for example, is embedded into all these things and they're connected. So it's not just one for the phone, one for this one. It's these kind of different, it's not different ecosystems. It's the big brain. Then I can imagine myself at a point where I get in the car and I say, oh, what's that message that was from Dave? And I listen to you and I say, okay, I'm going to reply to that. And then I reply to it and it all just works. And then I say, oh, by the way, can you tell the car to take me to so-and-so? And do you know what I mean? It's that joining up. Maybe that's where the humane thing comes in. Maybe it joins it all together. I don't know.
That is the sort of joined up thinking or the big picture, where's this going kind of stuff that I explore on my YouTube channel, How to Build a World Brain.
Oh, okay.
That's the stuff that I think we're going to need to grapple with when there's a more clearer picture of what's emerging. But I think there's a lot going on in tech companies in the sense that they see an ecosystem that they can join more things up to, not just the Internet of Things culturally as an experience. You know, you've always seen with Apple, I'm in too deep to get out. So the incentive is that. It's like, how do we make that more immersive? And so the big tech companies will be and are falling over themselves to enmesh you more in them. And I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but it's just like that's a phenomenon. That's a juggernaut now.
But do you think, though, that is part of the thing that's restricting? I was thinking about this as I was driving here. I was thinking, is it restrictive that I'm with Apple? So I've got a Mac, I've got an iPhone, but I prefer Google Maps, and I've got Google stuff, and then I've got Microsoft stuff. Is the fact that they're all trying to own you, and they're all trying to own you in their space, that actually is the thing that is going to hold back this one brain, or whatever you like to call it, kind of thing, because they're trying to keep you in their silo, and you either got to be part of the Apple brain, or you got to be part of the Microsoft brain, or the Meta brain, or whatever it is.
I don't know if it's holding it back so much. It won't be it is, but it's more the fact that the cycles of decentralization versus centralization goes on all the time. And it goes in massive waves. But they happen in different ways, socially, politically, and in technology. So you'll end up with big platforms like Google, for example, has been the platform. Like 80-90% of most traffic in the world goes through Google. And so that's a massive centralization already. Whether that gets then splintered because of AI tools into a bunch of cantons, and then that decentralizes for a generation and then comes back into some super brain. I don't know. But just more to know that those trends have happened throughout history.
Yes.
Information has always been
Yes.
there's an antagonism between centralization and decentralization. Monopolies versus
Yes.
what's the opposite of monopoly?
Independence.
Is it independence?
I don't know.
Anyway,
No.
monopolies versus small players. I don't think that's an antagonism that we solve. But at the moment, in the tech space, at least, and with AI,
Yes.
there seems to be
It's being a bit disrupted.
It's been disrupted, but it's also at the moment a runaway monopoly potentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that might be good in the short term,
Yeah.
which is resources to get to work in the ways that we want.
Yeah.
And then after that, you'd hope
Yes.
a lot of people run away and create all sorts of spaces that are not monopolies.
Yes.
I think. I don't know. I'm in two minds, because in the sense that I can see if humans have some protection economically from this is a much longer conversation, not to do with augmentation, to be honest.
Yeah.
You can see that monopolies are fine
Yeah.
as long as we retain some democratic control over them.
Yeah.
They will have the resources to do and think
Yes.
big
Yeah.
about this stuff. But if not, then I think particularly with these tools, potentially it's quite dangerous.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it there on that cherry
That's it.
note.
Cheery note. It always seems to be the way, doesn't it?
Sometimes we're happy.
Yeah.
Resistance.